Let's talk about one of the great resources for the artist, and that's the camera. Now, when we use the camera, we're not trying to just recreate the photograph. We're just using it as a resource. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting, years ago, students used to go to magazines and they'd copy them. And I can remember going to the state fair one fall and walking through the art exhibit, and as I walked through, I would see, whoa, that drawing is right out of National Geographic. That drawing is right out of National Geographic. And what they were actually doing was copying these works so closely that it was total plagiarism. You wouldn't take somebody else's work and type it up as your own for an essay or a paper, but for some reason students think it's okay to copy pictures. Well, the magazine thing's kind of gone now. Now it's the internet. So you have to be careful about using images off the internet, because if you copy them, you're plagiarizing. That's why I like to tell people to take their own photographs, because now that's your work. Now, when you're taking photographs, what do you want to do? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the viewfinder, whether it's your phone, whether it's an actual camera. Look at it as though it were a work of art. You can look and you can frame things, you can move the lens around and say, ooh, I like that much better than this. If everything's just a bullseye onto the subject matter, it's pretty boring. But if you can move the subject matter, the main focus over to one side and have a lot of really nice negative space, that's pretty cool. The other thing about taking your own pictures is the picture is not sacred. One of the things you might want to do is crop. Now, when you have a photograph, and you say, let's say that you have different imagery here. Let's say that you've got trees or something over on this side, you've got a building over here. You might find that this as a whole does not make it that interesting of a composition, but maybe this little area right here is a very interesting composition. And so we need to learn how to crop. Crop simply means that we take off excess and we zero in on certain areas. So let's go look at an image that I used. A number of years ago, I was down in California visiting family, and I was at my brother-in-law's house and going up just 3 houses across the road. I was at this place right here, and then there was a set of stairs going down to the beach. This is at Solana Beach. And I loved this tree. Now, I didn't like its surroundings at all. I mean, you've got this brick retaining wall, you've got telephone poles, telephone lines, you've got a planter here, a lot of extra useless information here as far as material. And so what I did was I took this photo and then I placed it in my own environment. So this is a wood print that I did, and I put the tree on a bluff. I used the grasses to show wind, the trees swept that way. And so I really liked just this tree. You go back, and this was way too busy. There's just nothing of interest here except the tree itself. And so that's what I did. And that's what you need to do with your photographs. Use them as a reference. Get rid of all the useless things that you don't need to put in. Find a setting, use it as a reference. You may find that you'll take one thing out of a photograph and put it in a new environment with other things. So that's when I say use a personal photograph. This is the idea that you're using it as a reference. And this works for printmaking, works for painting. It doesn't make any difference. So remember, the camera is simply a tool to create a reference for you to use. If you recreate a photograph completely in a painting or in a print, what's the use? You might as well just have the photograph. So think of it as something that you're going to use just parts of. Now, when you're walking around, everybody has a cell phone these days, so everybody carries a camera with them. And you should be looking for things. Think about detail. Think about what would make an interesting composition. If you try to take a picture of a big, broad landscape, chances are it's not going to work very well. It's very, very difficult to translate that into a nice print or a nice painting, especially as an aspiring student. Now, on the other hand, if you find little things that have detail to them, little close-up shots, those can make a very interesting composition. If you are a car person and you love cars, rather than take a picture of an entire car and try to recreate that, take maybe the front end of it, maybe the quarter panel, because if you're doing details, a lot easier to do a nice job and have it look cool than trying to do the entire vehicle and having it just a little bit off. The other thing is that you should be always looking for an opportunity to take a photograph. When I've helped students out before when they have to do this project, we're scrolling through their phone, selfie after selfie after selfie, themselves and their friends. Those do not make good pieces of art. They're very difficult to do, and usually they're not that interesting. So start looking for things that you think would make a good composition and start taking photos. If you're in the painting class, the paper that you'll be using, the watercolor paper that is 11 inches by about 7.5. And you can do it in a vertical format, horizontal format, whichever fits your composition. And so what I want you to do is start being aware of things around you so that when you find something that would make a really nice composition, you're ready to take a photograph, and now you've got a good reference.